Kate, can you hear us?
Oh, there was a response.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, we can't hear
Yeah, we
you.
can't hear you.
We see, we can read your lips though. We know exactly what you said, and that wasn't nice. Jake is doing his best.
I'll look that up.
Yeah, you're not-
Oh, that sounds good.
Now I'm hearing stuff.
Kate, could you make a noise again?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, wonderful, yeah.
Okay, I just had to plug in my headset.
Oh, okay, so it was you.
All right.
Okay, we have the technology.
Quorum.
If you can get the screen up,
I just gotta get the screen up
and you may not want to share if you're not gonna be able to unshare.
here. All right, I think, let's see here.
I think our quorum's about to walk through the door.
Was that Marla?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There she is.
Hello. Oh, and there's Bob, so I'm officially a alternate.
Okay.
You.
All right, we are going to call the meeting to order of the Bi-State Bridge Replacement Working Group at 2:04 PM. Let the record show, I believe we have a quorum. Has everyone had a chance to review the meeting minutes? All right. Anybody like to make a motion? Or do we?
You just do by consensus.
Okay, well, the meeting minutes are approved by consensus. All right, can we get the commission formation agreements update?
All right, let's see, just before we do that, Mayor McBride, did you need to, leave? Are you gonna be leaving us shortly?
Yeah, I do. I have a thing that started at 2, but I just told him I'd try and be about a half hour late. So, I mean, I'm not sure how long it's going to take to go over the DC trip stuff, but I definitely need to be in on that conversation. It might not be very long, but I'm hoping we could do that early on in the meeting.
Yeah, if you want, we can go ahead and move
Let's,
that up.
let's move that up.
Okay, so in your packet, there is the itinerary. And I have to apologize, I appreciate everybody's patience with the packet. I'm going from a new laptop, so we're having some technical difficulties here. But I'm gonna try to bring up our itinerary. So this is, on the screen, is our fourth Bi-State Working Group itinerary to Washington, DC. This is July 18th through the 21st. Does everybody, let's see, we've got Mayor McBride, Hood River, Mayor Keefler from White Salmon, Jake Anderson, Klickitat County Commissioner, and Mike Fox, Port of Hood River Commissioner, are attending along with myself. So, does everybody have any questions about either their airline reservations, hotel, any comments about anything on the agenda for the trip back east? Does everybody know where we're staying?
Yotel,
Yotel.
So
Hotel.
do tell.
Dotel at the Yotel.
So my question is, getting to Portland, are we going to do some kind of a carpool down and back, or do you have a plan for any of that?
You know, I didn't, in fact, that's a good open conversation item for folks. I was probably going to go the night before and probably stay in Vancouver, since I've got family there.
Does anyone else want a carpool?
I'll be I'll be coming from another trip into DC, so I won't be leaving in Portland on Monday. So I'll be out of the carpool.
Okay.
Chris, do you want the password? Oh, he was just offering to share with you. Because you're in my address book.
Kate, why don't I follow up with Mike Fox on your behalf?
Okay, that sounds good. We can just follow up on that later then. Okay, thanks.
That's not a problem. And then, the other thing I think is of some importance is that, we did work on putting together the 2-page spread for the, kind of handout piece.
Which looks really nice, by the way.
There we go. So are there any comments on this handout for the trip? This was done by PageWorks, Roundtree did the graphic design. Actually, a lot of the material that's in this flyer was done on the whiteboard that maybe some in the room can see. Marla and Mike Fox, we discussed this a couple of weeks ago and incorporated these pictures as well. So if there's any changes that you'd like to see to this, definitely let me know in advance. Otherwise, this is what we're going to take to show you.
Kevin, I just had a couple comments on that pie chart.
Yes,
You know, the Washington hopeful money. I mean, we hope it's pretty secure, but it's not 100% for that. But it kind of looks that way in the graph. So and there's not a lot of room to do anything much different. And then, you know, local, it says local, and what's local / tolls is the local. So I mean, we can explain the sheet when we hand it out, but I just don't want others to assume, oh yeah, absolutely, Washington's giving X, we know that. And what is local, you know, when we say that, that's tolls. So that was my only comments on it.
Yeah, or local tolling or tolling, because I think it's actually more powerful to say that that it's going to be user fee on the bridge. We already are planning to pay
I agree.
ourselves.
Yeah, good point. And also that the community is used to paying tolls, so it's not gonna be a difficult hurdle to jump over.
I was wondering how you're going to word that.
yeah, and that's a good point. So the 75 million that we received last session, that's in the green received pie chart, but you're right, that 50 million that we're showing there for Washington 23 session, that has not been committed. That's just kind of a placeholder. Same with Oregon. So there's definitely a little bit of nuance that goes with these numbers. But we certainly wanted to give sort of a range or some concepts just so that they can see that there's a lot more than just that 195 million going into this effort. But I can definitely add that tolling to the index.
Out of the 95 million, how much of that was from federal sources?
Of that 5 million is the build grant. 5 was from Oregon ARPA, 5 million was from 2 Washington sessions ago. So, and then
It'll be good to have the numbers kind of at the top of your heads as to, just to make it clear that there's actually been very little federal money on this so far.
right?
Because so this might make it look like there's already 95 million in federal money there, but there's not.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good point. When I originally had it, those little $5 million.
Yeah, no, that's,
were in effect.
I'm just, yeah, you can't show it graphically, but to have that ready to explain it, that really in terms of federal money, there's been very little federal money on this so far.
Excellent.
Arthur, I think, and Kevin, that the points kind of that we're making, those ones you've just made, Arthur, especially if we had a cheat sheet with us that we can go over prior to all these meetings that would have those specific points so we can kind of get them cemented in our heads before the meetings, that would be great, Kevin.
Not a problem. It's a great idea. Let's see, trying to get to, there we go, second page. Yes, I am.
Circle, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
Oh.
Okay, Marla, Pam, on the prior page, there was existing obsolescence, there's a typo.
Oh.
Correct that. And I think we were going to try to change, the, bridge open. I was gonna try to get the graphic designer to update that, to try to push that into 28 or 29.
Yeah. I mean, if we're all comfortable with that, I think it aligns with what's being pushed by Senator King and kind of locally, and I think it is also overshoot focused and it'll look better. Yeah,
Okay, that's
it's
not,
not lying, but you know, it's obviously dependent too, on all this coming together.
no, I think that's a great idea. So I'll go ahead and just push that, try to open that, show that bridge opening a little bit sooner.
So are you gonna push the start of construction into 25 then?
Well, we certainly could. I could go maybe push that back 6 months, maybe in the right, maybe January then of 26. I mean, I don't want to get too burdened into the details of what stuff's going to happen on this, but I think Senator King and others would like to see it a little bit faster, so it's just.
Well, if you can get the money, you can move faster. I mean, when it shows that you're asking for 195 million for construction, but your construction's 4 years out, that doesn't look so great.
I think that's a good point for the cheat sheet. So that we can
Yeah.
reiterate that as we're having these conversations, you know, the faster we get the money, the faster we can start, finish the project.
I'm sorry, the point that, and the thing that Marla corrected, the existing obsolescence, I'm stuck on that because it doesn't really make any sense to me, that phrase. What you're saying is the bridge is functionally obsolete.
Yes,
So could we say that instead?
sure.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what existing obsolescence means. That's almost oxymoron.
The other thing that, for me on this graph on the top, the timeline thing, is it kind of looks like we just started on this project. Because, you know, we've got this, you know, this year, 2022, that's where we start with the graph. If we took the logo off on the left, we could extend that, you know, back in time and show when we actually started doing things, started the EIS, or, you know, started some of the type size studies. That, you know, this isn't just starting. We have been working on this for a long time. So I just think it would be good for them to know that.
I think that's a great point, especially if we want to like start that at 2017 or whenever that Oregon.
Well, 2007, the FEIS was, I was in this room working on the FEIS in 2007.
Well, right, like, I guess, do we go all the way back to like 99?
Why not, just to show that,
Or-
to show how far along we are in the process, to make it seem more like this is a shovel-ready project that we're trying to get across the finish line now.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think that's a
people
great
like to
point.
come in at the end, right?
Because when you look at it right now.
Yeah, it's a great visual.
I'll work on that. We might clump up some of those years just so it doesn't become like, you know, a 50-year timeline, but we can take some of those early years from like 99 to 15. And maybe show that as a group of anything else on this page?
Oh yeah, I think those little cars need bike racks or something, but no.
Screws?
I saw a Pacific Power line truck up in Post Canyon with a bike rack on the back
Are you serious?
at Family Man. Yeah, I got some pictures of it.
One thing it is kind of interesting here is I did put a request into the Yakima Nation to see if they wanted to be listed as a supporter for the project. So in all of our conversations with the Yakima, they reiterate constantly that they are supportive of the project and of the bridge. And so just wanted to see if there's an opportunity for them to throw their logo on this with everybody else's.
Whether or not they do, I would, under the benefits, I would add the issue about improvement of water quality, improvement of navigation in the river, improvement of water quality by reducing crap going into the river.
Right, stormwater collection.
Oh, actually, it says that, I'm sorry. But see, by saying stormwater collection, I didn't even put that together.
Yeah,
So maybe if you should say water quality, improve quality of Columbia River water.
absolutely.
I think stormwater is the least of it. It's the,
Right.
it's. Yes.
Stuff coming off
Oil,
cars.
yeah. Hazmat. Big scary one.
On here, it shows 55% of the users are Washington residents, 45 from Oregon. I mean, that's not accurate because we have a significant portion of the population that's, transient that only come here, to play.
Right, right.
And, but you guys probably don't have any numbers to show what we think the,
I'm glad you brought that up, because actually it's fresh in my mind from like the Clickatack County study, but I think in there about workforce, it's 60%
Yeah.
are Clickatack residents.
Does it matter? Why do we even say this? Is this point,
Yeah.
does this point help us in selling the bridge?
Where is it? I'm not even.
It's above the benefits.
Tacked on community.
Oh, okay.
There's the bullet points, 4.5 million annual trips, steady 2.5% annual growth pre-COVID.
If we say it's a multi-state,
Well, so I think that the point that mattered, why it was in that study was, the study actually broke down where Clickatack residents travel for jobs. And then it's Wasco, Hood River, and so I think we could, then maybe that's the argument, is that X% of Washington residents commute to, employment is on the Oregon side. I don't know what the counter is, but I think even one way shows just how,
so,
If we
so
look at our, freeze by system, because we track the plates.
I think that's where we get that breakdown, is who's got breeze by, and who doesn't. That's how we're generating those numbers.
Okay.
And it changes, something, I've seen it as 60-40,
Yeah.
sometimes it's, 55,
so I guess what I'm trying to say is that the way that makes this sound right here is that this is a bridge between two states that's used for locals. The point I tried to make is that this is one of the national treasures, and that a significant portion of the trips that go across this bridge are from all over the nation, and that's why federal dollars should belong here.
yeah, so it's critical to local economy. It's also fundamental to interstate travel.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 points we're trying to get out, and I don't think that they're quite as clear as they could be here.
Yeah, I think I agree. Maybe there's a difference out there, but this one doesn't really carry
Yeah.
anything forward.
Maybe we even just remove the percentages and say the bullet could be, it's for economic development and significant amount for tourism.
sure.
I guess the other question is, does anybody actually read these things?
Pictures.
A lot of times when I use these, I use them as something I can point to while I'm talking. It reminds me as I'm talking of the points. So it's more like a cheat sheet for me. Yeah, I'm not gonna be on the trip,
I think
but
staff
that's how I use them.
will.
Yeah.
I mean, I've often, obviously not for this, but privately created these things and then got back to, years later and go pull out the same handout. So I think,
Yeah.
it doesn't, we're this far along.
Is there, and I've been just not remembering, is there a picture of a barge? Because I think that's a huge important bullet point, is that it is the most difficult barge crossing on the Columbia.
Yeah, there's the
Okay.
bar.
Oh, yeah, it's under benefits. Yeah,
Yeah.
better navigation is listed there.
And it's-
But I think better navigation should be stressed that, you talk to the bargeway people and they say it's the most difficult crossing. It's the most technical crossing for barges.
What you mean, narrow, an angle
The
and
angle
high
because
wind?
of the spit
And the two,
and the sandbar.
the sandbars, is kind of the serpentine.
And the traffic from the marina coming out there and jet skis,
People.
windsurfers, guiders.
So those are all really good. So let me make those edits and I'll get that back to everybody and just make sure that, and also work on that cheat sheet. Just some more detailed bullet points on some of the things that are identified in the handout.
So under safety, isn't the real point, so seismic resiliency, that's a great thing to say. Isn't the real thing that this is the only passage for 50 miles, or is the number is that there's a more than 50-mile
Yeah.
detour around it? So something that makes it clear that this is a key connectivity and interstate highway system.
Couldn't another thing for benefit that people like is that it should have a lower maintenance cost?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
The benefits of the new bridges that we're not going to be spending money repairing it every year.
And you just have an extra bullet on the support the effort, the last one, looks like she just hit enter and maybe a bullet.
Kevin, this is Steve Siegel. Where it says support the effort and it's listing the congressional delegations, did they in fact, do you have specific what would be the proper word, documentation that they've supported? It's a little, to me, it seems a little strange to put in a flyer that you're going to hand out to the delegation that they support it. Right? I'm sure they do, but to actually reference it like that seems a little strange to me, at least, unless there's been some kind of formal communication between those, between the delegation, saying that they, that they support it on paper.
Yeah, Hal, you certainly did get letters of support from all of those federal representatives.
Okay, and what about putting in the fact that that the Oregon and that some of the people that supported the state allocations?
Are you talking about like our local state representative?
Yep. Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Anna Williams, Senator King.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a good.
That's what that extra dot was for.
Yeah, right.
Out the tribes?
Thank you. Any other thoughts on this?
Do we need
If
to
you
have
need-
the logos and the names on there? I just
Just
like
gonna say
less.
that.
You like what?
I like less,
Yeah.
and so we've got the logos and the names, pick one or the other.
I was just,
Yeah. I
I
feel like logos. People are visual.
was gonna say go with the names. Guess I'm not visual.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if the logos are actually big enough to read, then use the logos, but in this iteration, you can't even see what they say. They're just seem too small.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the logo is for the senator's offices.
Yeah,
Maybe we just go with the listing the names.
yeah.
and
I
not
think you
the-
can list like delegation names and just choose logos for all these, the entities, agencies.
The agencies, okay.
Sounds like a graphic decision.
Anything else? The map on the front was kind of an effort to show where the project is located, but don't know if there's any thoughts about that map.
It's not the best graphic. The whole thing's a little cluttered on the front, so I might either get rid of that or put a simpler, more stylized map.
Maybe something that shows the state boundaries a little bit.
Yeah, something that looks like you would have seen in third grade.
Yeah, so I don't know, I pulled up, it was the 2017 Cookiesett County Strategic Plan. But there, if you just calculate where people work in Oregon counties, it's about 23% of the workforce commutes to the Oregon side for employment,
Say that number again,
23%
of
Our
This is
county
20.
workers.
which side goes to which?
of Washington, Cookiesett County residents commute to Oregon. for
23% too,
employment.
okay.
Okay.
if that's anything.
Well, I have no idea. I'll have to look and see what the Oregon numbers are commuting to,
Right,
you know,
Yeah.
in situ.
There's a lot of people, but as a percentage, it's probably not that high.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But just having some bullets like that on Kate's cheat sheet is probably a good idea.
All right, very good. If you have any other thoughts after the meeting, feel free to email those to me. Otherwise, I will be working on getting all of these changes updated, and then I'll get that redistributed to everyone. Marla, do you want to just kind of give an update on the video and the One Gorge, or not One Gorge, but Story Gorge?
Sure. Well, a couple things. So the Columbian article came out this weekend, and OPB, I think, is gonna do a story, and at the city, we have kind of a part-time comms outreach person that I've engaged on other stuff. So that was the result of her doing some cold calling the weekend that the bridge was closed, trying to just get some coverage. So I think it's nice that at least a few articles are out that we can send on. But along with that, we had a ton of response of residents just with their personal stories and how the bridge was gonna affect them. And I was saying to Kevin, and so we kind of greenlit it that, you know, this is gonna happen regardless. It'd be great to just get footage of the actual closure and construction going on and sit down with some of these residents and get a personal narrative story going. And so they're interviewing some residents this week. Kevin sat down and I sat down with him earlier today. And then the plan is that they'll have that video put together and edited probably when we're coming back from DC. But that just gives us a good tool to be using and also to send back out to those offices in August, just kind of as a reminder. And I think, you know, again, just we've got some passionate residents that are in there. And so I think that helps. But yeah, I mean, all of that was really just trying to build off of something, you know, eliminate out a limit or if it's about the bridge being closed, but it kind of gives us a good, you know, tool to work with. So.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I really appreciate you taking the lead on that because that's right up your alleyway. So can't wait to see the final product.
So, you know, Marla talking about that reminded me of, I had a meeting with Dave Poucher years ago where we were talking about the bridge and how the community is so uncomfortable with the current bridge and the level of awareness and knowledge. And I was telling the story about how I have a lot of friends who are afraid that when they're crossing the bridge, they're going to wind up in the river. And Mayor Poucher took out his key ring and he had a tool on it for breaking his window.
Are you serious?
Absolutely. And it's like hammered home my point. So
That's great.
we can get you one.
Yeah.
Maybe we can hand out those keychains to legislators who are back in DC.
But seriously, I mean, it came up organically, so it was especially powerful.
Yeah,
But because I had no idea he had that, and he had no idea I was going to tell that story, but it really worked. So I don't know, think about it.
Maybe add that.
Maybe we
story
should
to
get
the
all of
keychain.
you guys one for your trip to DC and you can show them.
Yeah, that's what I
My
was.
drive on. my drive on, I actually have one of those in my car too.
Do you really? Yeah.
Just one other item. So there is a form that Hal's team sent to all of us that will be going back east. Please fill that document out as soon as possible. They wanted, I think, 7 days in advance. And that's the one that has your social security number and your name and all that.
Yep.
And then that's how they do the clearance, and then that's how you get into the White House. So all the other information, and I'll follow up with you just to make sure that's been submitted. But I think everything else is good to go. Okay, just remind me, I'll follow up with Mike Fox to see when he's driving out there, just to see if you guys can carpool on that. All right, let's see, I've got a couple of Mayor Keywood is saying that her microphone isn't working, so she's listening. Hello, Catherine. Sorry about that. Okay, so Steve. Why don't we?
Oh, she has one of those tools. Great.
Oh, the window breaking.
We need to get some logo ones. I survived the Hood River White Salmon Crossing. We could probably pay, we could add that to the pie chart for paying. Yeah. The Port Skip Shop. I love it.
Kevin, I need to get going. I just had one more question.
Yeah.
On my calendar, for some reason, I had something about a bi-state working group meeting with the port tomorrow at 4. Was that just a placeholder?
If it was, that's an old one.
Okay, so we're not doing that. Okay,
No, our next meeting after this is August 16th.
August 8th. Okay,
16th.
It should be August 16th.
16th. Okay. All right, I will put it down and then I'll just touch bases with you on any kind of carpool or whatever to the airport.
Exactly.
All right, sorry, I can't stay on you guys, but I got another thing this afternoon.
No problem. Thank you for zooming in.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
I have both the 8th and the 15th on my calendar for the next meeting.
What do you have?
The 8th and the 15th are both listed. 16th is a Tuesday.
Okay, let's go with August.
Oh. Yeah, I've got the 15th on my calendar at 2 o'clock.
It should be the 15th.
Okay, great.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
All right, Steve, are you there? You were coming in loud and clear earlier.
I'm here. Are you gonna leave that up and I'll just tell you to move it?
Yeah, I'm gonna do
Okay.
my best. I'm having a little some technical difficulties here, so
Okay, why don't you go to the first real side? Good afternoon, everybody. So we've been working on, with Commissioner Benton and Kevin and myself have been working on preparing the first draft of the commission formation agreement. You may recall that's a term that's actually used in the legislation. And the first draft, hopefully will be sent out by this Friday for the first round of reviews. Probably would expect 2 others after this first round before asking the bi-state working group to recommend it. The comments on the first draft are due August 4th, so about 3 weeks to review it. I think the bi-state working group members themselves, you all, would be interested in certainly parts of it. Hope you review it all, but there's probably some key parts, and I'll highlight them in a second that we certainly want to get your input on. But in addition to that, I think it's really important that we have this agreement reviewed by the attorneys to your various governing bodies. It's an important document. It will be reviewed by attorneys for credit raters and lenders and bond counsels. And will also be a component of the legal background on the new commission in the event of any future legal actions. So important to review. Ask that in addition to whatever review you provide, that you ask your attorneys to review it. And either directly through me, or if you want through Kevin, should they have any questions or any need for discussions, happy to help them review it in any way possible. Next, Kevin, please. So the commission formation agreement has a number of statutory requirements, things that must be in there to satisfy the conditions of the statutes. But in addition to that, the commission formation agreement can address other issues that that the local governing governments deem important. The draft that we'll be sending to you right now addresses two other situations. One of which is that once this commission gets up and running, and we're targeting July 1st of 2023 for that, there will be the need for them to address some governance issues, but we want to try to keep that to a minimum. And so the commission formation agreement currently includes, or at least the draft, currently includes a number of provisions that are intended to allow the commission to function right from the get-go without spending a lot of time immediately to address other issues such as administrative rules. And in addition to that, this commission formation agreement provides kind of a roadmap of how the transition of governing this project from essentially what we have now, which is the Bi-State Working Group and the Port of Hood River managing it. How does that transition over to having this commission run everything? And we put together in this agreement kind of a 1 to 2 year roadmap of how that transition will occur, in part to make sure it occurs smoothly, and in part to make sure that it's transparent about what's going on and make sure everybody kind of buys into it. Next, please, Kevin. So when you look at the items required by statute, the major topics are listed here. The one that I'll focus on, and I think it might be one of the issues that you, the Bi-State Working Group members, might want to focus your own review on, is the Board of Directors. And right now, the draft calls for having 6 voting directors, 3 appointed by the Klickitat County and 3 by Hood River County, with nominations from the cities in the port to their respective home counties. And in addition to that, we are proposing that that there can be and will be some ex officio members on the board. In particular, what we're proposing, and this is again a way perhaps to smooth the transition from the Bi-State Working Group to this new commission. We are proposing that essentially the Bi-State Working Group be appointed as ex officio members for the first 2 years of this board, unless the Bi-State, unless the local governments and the new commission agree to extend it further. So right off the bat, there'd be, assuming that, right, at least for now, that there's none of the Bi-State Working Group members are appointed as directors, there'd be 6 voting directors and 6 ex officio non-voting members for the first 2 years. We also allow the board in the future to add ex officio members to the board, again, as non-voting members. The other issue to focus on are the board co-chairs. Now, in the statutes themselves, there is a process about how the co-chairs get appointed. Essentially, there's always 2 co-chairs. This is all statutory. This was a change actually made in Washington, and we eventually got Oregon to agree to it. It wasn't the way we proposed it. But the way it works is there's 2 co-chairs. One of them having to reside in the state of Washington, and one of them having to reside in the state of Oregon. And there's a first co-chair and a second co-chair, if you want to think of it. The second co-chair is kind of like a vice chair, acts in the absence of the first co-chair. And those two positions, first co-chair and second co-chair, change every 12 months. So there's a co-chair of a person that resides in the state of Washington 1 year, and the following year, there's a co-chair of a person that resides in the state of Oregon. That's all statutory. What's proposed here is that I saw the question. I'll answer that in 1 second. What's proposed here is that for the first 6 months, so from January of 2023 to December 31st of 2023, that the co-chairs of the board actually be from the bi-state working group. So one bi-state working group member from Oregon, one bi-state working group member from Washington. And again, the reason for doing that is to facilitate the transition so that we can get the new people involved, the directors, kind of up and running before they take full control of running the meetings. The question came up, do the co-chairs vote? The answer is yes. There are 6 voting members in the commission formation agreement. It says that with the exception of an emergency ordinance, that it takes 4 affirmative votes to pass an ordinance or a resolution. And of course, an emergency ordinance by statutes in both states require both a quorum, which is 4 members of the board, 4 voting members of the board, and it requires that all the directors voting vote to approve the emergency ordinance. So it's laid out in the commission formation agreement. It's a proposal. It's a draft. If there's things that you have better ideas about how to do it, now's the time to start raising them. And we have at least 2 more cycles of review and comment to keep on refining, these kind of issues. Kevin, next, please.
Yeah,
Do we
I
wanna
have an
a
issue.
Conversation about that,
Yes.
please.
Yeah, so I have a little experience with the your 4 votes required to pass an ordinance or resolution. In other words, what you're effectively saying is it's a majority of the commissioners as opposed to a majority of those present for quorum purposes. And the problem that you can get with that is that in situations where you have an abstention or you have a member who or a seat that's vacant, that is equivalent to a no vote. And you can easily and accidentally get into a situation where you can't take action because of people having a conflict of interest. And we had some very serious issues in Hood River with that, but our charter requires that. So I suggest instead of 4 votes, a majority of the total set of commissioners, of the seated set of commissioners.
A majority of the quorum.
No, a majority of the total number of commissioners. I understand that the reason you're doing this is to prevent, the delegation from one state from taking over, and taking advantage of the fact that someone's not present at the meeting. So this is a common way to avoid that, and I think that that's probably appropriate in this situation. But by changing it to a majority of the seated commissioners, you deal with the abstention and the empty seat issue.
Let me say something, but I think more importantly, let me also think about what you just said and see how to work around it. But there's 6 voting directors, right? And so a quorum, we have a quorum of 4. If you said a majority of the commissioners, well, that would also be 4, right?
There's a vacant seat.
Yeah, so say there's one vacant seat and then you have a meeting and 2 people have to abstain because of a conflict of interest, then there's nothing that can be accomplished.
I see. Okay, got it. And good point, and I'll work on that.
I've had too much experience with this.
I would ask my seatmates, do we think that having up to 12 people is a little excessive?
Are there 12 voting members?
Well, no, there's 6 voting members, but then there's 6 ex officio members until June 30th of 2025. Right.
I think we're all going to be pretty scarce pretty quickly.
Well,
That's my guess.
I think my own opinion, and again, I think it's something you need to discuss. My own opinion is yes, that 12 is excessive over the long term. And that's why we kind of sunsetted it. But, the flip side of that was that, as you all know, there's a lot about this project to absorb, and if you get 6 new directors or something like that, and there's nobody on that or even only one person on it with experience on this project, then I think it's a little bit concerning that somebody might, make a mistake. So the idea was that only for the first 2 years, you'd have those 6 ex officio members by state working group, to help smooth that transition. And then the way it stands now, those ex officio positions would sunset unless the board and the local governments decided that was a good idea, and then you could continue it. So I don't know if that.
It doesn't sound like they have to be on there. It says it from time to time, so we could appoint people to be on it.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're not voting members, I understand you're worried about a room just being full of people talking. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the point here, I think when we were discussing it in the smaller group with Kevin and Steve and myself, was just to keep that continuity. It's likely that there will be bi-state working group members that will end up on, as part of the Bridge Authority. But for, I think that given the transition and like Steve said, the amount of history and kind of institutional knowledge everybody has that's been working on this forever, it's helpful for a transition period to have those people present.
And so just for the sake of argument, an alternative would be that we leave the chair and co-chair of this committee as ex officio members, and then you get it down to 2 automatic ex officio rather than all 6 of us.
Fair enough. And, those are the kinds of issues that we will put down on a list and address in August after this review. So that could become an option for sure. Okay, should I move on? Next, please, Kevin.
Yeah.
I know you want me to speed this up, so why don't we just go one more further, next one, skip this one. Okay, so there we go. One of the things you'll notice when you see the agreement is that there are, in addition to the definition exhibit, there are 2 other exhibits. One of which, Exhibit 2, is called the interim rules. And this is not required, or know, there's other ways to deal with it outside of the commission formation agreement. But what we tried to do was to establish some basic rules about how this commission should function as it starts up, and those rules would stay in place until the board adopts a superseding rule. So pretty much all of these rules can be changed. There are some of the rules that, some of the interim rules, I think definitely should be changed as time goes on. Some might have a little longer lifespan. But we put together rules just so that, again, that this new board can actually focus on the bridge and getting money for the bridge and stuff like that, instead of worrying about adopting administrative rules right away. And so there's rules on on what, 6 or 8 different things. In some cases, they're there just to facilitate matters. But one of the things you should be aware of is that there are, a good example is adopting a resolution. So there are statutes in both states about how cities adopt resolutions and ordinances, and counties adopt city resolutions and ordinances and special districts, none of which by their language actually would apply to this bridge commission. So one of the things we tried to do in the rules was to make clear how those things should occur, at least at first, at least, you know, again, the board can refine them over time, but to just make sure that that it can pick a co-chair, conduct a meeting, put out public notice, create a budget, those kind of matters right off the bat. Even though, like I said, over the next 2 or 3 years, there's probably some good reasons why the interim rules should be upgraded to kind of more permanent rules. Next, please. The other thing, the other exhibit you'll notice is Exhibit 3, which primarily deals with coordinating the budget process of the Port of Hood River with the budget process of this commission. For a while, perhaps even until the new bridge opens up, the two budgets are going to be interrelated or linked. And there needs to be a process to make sure that that the budgets are synced and in a way and approved in a proper way by both bodies. And so to ensure that can happen, now that budget won't be needed for the fiscal year beginning July, fiscal year 24, which starts July of 23, but is likely to be needed a year later. And so we put together this process, something that Kevin and I, Michael McElway, worked on before he left, just to make sure that would work both for the Port of Hood River and for this new bridge commission. And that's included as Exhibit 3. Kevin, next, please. So one of the questions that might come up is, well, do we want to have all of this in one agreement, or should they be carved up into 2 or 3 agreements? And the answer is, at least in my mind at this point, is I don't know. I thought for now it is best to put this all together in one document so everybody can see how it all fits together. But there are pros and cons to keeping them together. We will address that either in August or September. But if we decide to break it up into more than one agreement, if we have it as a whole in one agreement, it won't be that difficult to break up. So I think for now, keeping all of this together is the best way to proceed, easiest way for you to follow it. But we'll have to decide, kind of weigh the pros and cons of the one agreement versus multiple agreement approach later, and probably in August or September. So I'll stop there and just ask if there are any questions.
Not a question, but I just note that the mechanism for removal of board members is something that's going to take, I think it's going to take some careful consideration. I'm not a big fan of allowing boards to choose who their co-members are. So I kind of like the model of the board members serving at the pleasure of the County Board of Commissioners. But yeah, I can see arguments for anything.
Again, absolutely the kind of thing we need to discuss. Those are the kinds of policy issues we'll discuss in August. So I've gotten a list of the ones that you've raised today. I'm sure there'll be more, and we'll go through those in August and September. And like I said, I also just want to emphasize, it would be very helpful to have your county councils or city attorneys or general counsels review it. This is, kind of breaking new ground. I mean, we're inventing something new. There's a lot of legal entanglements to it. And so the more eyes on it, the better. And like I said, if any of your attorneys want to have some kind of briefing about it, happy to do that as well.
Okay,
Hey, Steve.
thank you, Mr. Stegall.
Thank you.
Right, I guess at this point, the next one is the replacement bridge management contract review. And so just wanted to make sure that everybody had first received the PDF of the document, and if there were any specific questions about anything related to the contract that wasn't included in the memo, the cover memo.
Any questions?
I don't think so. I'm not sure I read the cover memo.
Let's see.
So give me 1 second just to pull it up.
I'll try to bring it up as well. You might beat me to it though.
How fast that computer's going.
BMC found it. Here we go. I got it. I'm just seeing a contract. I don't see a cover.
Well.
By 66,
So the
61
cover memo is
pages.
in the packet, and the contract
Oh.
is sent separately. So it's page,
Oh, so it's in the packet page.
packet page 9.
Oh, thanks.
There we go. Yeah, here it's up on the screen here. So, so I'll just kind of summarize this then. So really the critical part of this document is the last section of the packet that was sent to you or sent an email. It has the detailed work plan. So that's about a 20 page, 30 page document that lays out what HNTV will be doing in that first year. There's also some rough layout for years 2 and 3 as well. And so I think those are really important. Most of those have dates. They're all very date certain as far as when those deliverables would be completed by. I do want to note that I think Michael Shannon is on the call as well from HNTV. And it's been really great working. It's been a long process. We probably met at least a dozen times during this last month and a half. One thing that we did learn is that the rates that will be used are negotiated with ODOT. So all of HNTB's categories, as well as their subs, all have arranged rates with ODOT. And the contract is very clear that none of the federal grant money will reimburse for anything over those negotiated rates. And so I think that's a really important item for this as well.
So basically what we have control over is the mix of types of people who work on the project, but beyond that, the rates are then set by ODOT.
Exactly. And so there's what are the deliverables? What's the work to be completed?
Right.
then
And what
we've
mix
got-
of people?
And then we've got the not to exceed amount. And
Oh,
so,
okay.
so with that, then it's a matter of HNTB working
Marking.
within that budget and those deliverables to
Ah, okay.
maximize the people on their team to get that work done.
Right. Any other questions? Would somebody like make a motion to forward to the Port Commission the recommendation?
Just consensus.
Oh,
Just
just
consensus.
consensus.
Yeah, this is kind of a consensus. group.
All right, well, do we have consensus to forward this on to the Park Commission?
Yes.
Everybody's in favor.
Great. Catherine, I'm assuming you're gonna put something in the chat saying that you agree. Since let's see what she has to say here.
And I would like to, I know Mike's not here, but I'd like to call out, Mike has done an exceedingly enormous amount of work on this agreement, and thank you, Mike, for all your efforts,
Mike and Kevin.
and Kevin, yeah.
And Bill Oley as well. There's Catherine in her, yes. Bill Oley was also a big part of that. That's our outside counsel.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, I will make sure that the Port Commission knows that tomorrow night, and they will be approving the contract then, assuming there's no surprises, and then we'll do the notice to proceed following Wednesday, and then there's a 7-day protest period. After which all of the materials from the procurement process become open
Right.
public documents. But at that point, we can start bringing them in and getting them outfitted and start this next phase of the project.
Cool. So now people can see the doodles I left in the notebook.
Oh, yes, yes. I think you have to go back and initial all of those.
I think I initialed all my doodles, no problem.
So anyway, I think just a big thank you to everybody that was involved in this project from the beginning of the evaluation committee, which was back in March, I think. One thing here, just switching down the agenda. So Commissioner Fox is having a barbecue on July 30th for state working group members. If you haven't RSVP'd but would like to go, please, Commissioner Fox, just let him know that you're going to be coming if you haven't let him know already. Other than that.
And if you haven't seen his place, it's definitely worth a visit. He's got the view.
Very nice, but other than that, but I don't think that there's anything else that I have to add,
All
so.
right. Well, we're just a little bit late on schedule, but I think, is there anything else anybody would like to discuss? Hearing none, I'll declare this meeting adjourned.
Good work. Mhm.
Wow, I was here till 4, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought we're early.
It said 3 on the calendar.
Oh, did it? Okay,
Right there.
okay.
Now it should be real hot outside.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to sitting on my vinyl seat.
Ramona, you know that you were not in that camera shot.
Sat there on purpose.
Was that by design?